Selling out is easy to do. It's not so hard to find a buyer for you. When money talks, you're under its spell. Ah, but what do you have when there's nothing left to sell?
Well, a Scotsman clad in kilt left the bar one evening fair. One could tell by how he walked that he drunk more than his share. He fumbled around until he could no longer keep his feet. Then he stumbled off into the grass, asleep beside the street. Ring-ding diddle-little-laddy-o, ring-di-diddly-I-o. He stumbled off into the grass, asleep beside the street. About that time, two young and lovely girls just happened by. One says to the other with a twinkle in her eye, "See yon sleeping Scotsman, so strong and handsome built. I wonder if it's true what they don't wear beneath the kilt. Ring-ding diddle-little-laddy-o, ring-di-diddly-I-o. I wonder if it's true what they don't wear beneath the kilt." They crept up on that sleeping Scotsman, quiet as could be, lifted up his kilt about an inch so they could see, and there, behold, for them to view, beneath his Scottish skirt, was nothing more that God had graced him with upon his birth. Ring-ding diddle-little-laddy-o, ring-di-diddly-I-o, was nothing more that God had graced him with upon his birth. They marveled for a moment, then one said, "We must be gone. Let's leave a present for our friend before we move along." As a gift they left a blue silk ribbon tied into a bow. Round the bonny star the Scots kilt did lift and show. Ring-ding diddle-little-laddy-o, ring-ding-diddly-I-o. Around the bonny star the Scots kilt did lift and show. Now the Scotsman woke to nature's call and stumbled towards the trees. Behind a bush he lifts his kilt and gawks at what he sees. And in a startled voice he says to what's before his eyes, "Ah, lad, I don't know where you been, but I see you won first prize. Ring-ding diddle-little-laddy-o, ring-di-diddly-I-o. Ah, lad, I don't know where you been, but I see you won first prize." That's the Scotsman. Maybe it was written by a guy named Mike Cross, recorded by a man named Byron Bowers. Not the Byron Bowers you're thinking of, but a white guy. There's a black comic named Byron Bowers. I know that song because of Dr. Demento's anniversary collections, which was exclusively the only music I listened to until I was probably in 9th grade, maybe 8th. Novelty music. Hey, I'm a kind of funny guy. I like gags. Anyway, that's the Scotsman because I'm in Edinburgh. I had to close the window because it was so loud. But so maybe there's a glare. I'm sorry, but we've got the Scott Monument right there. I guess Scott is the guy they named the land after. And then over there, you can see that's the Edinburgh Castle. There's like a, I don't know if this is all the time or what, but there's like a Ferris wheel and some lighthouse type slide you can go down, and one of those things where they take you up and spin you around. Let's see. Here's what we're gonna do. I recapped London from Dublin. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna recap Dublin and Edinburgh. But what we're gonna do first is something I'm doing for the Patreon called Lagniappe. Means a little extra in Cajun. This is where I'm gonna put the not so wholesome parts of my journey. And then for the future as well, I'll carry on. But I wanted to give the Patreon a little bit something else besides early access. Especially because early access basically didn't become a thing for a while. But guys, I'm banking episodes. Okay, I'm crushing it right now. Honestly, it's kind of it's honestly kind of crazy what I'm doing. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna so what we're gonna do right now. So for the Patreon, it's $5 a month. You get early access to all this, and you get a little extra. And so I'm going to do right now, just so that I don't have to record a separate thing, I'm going to jump into what happened in London, Dublin, and Edinburgh so far. That's maybe on the unsavory side. Put it behind a paywall, and then jump back to the more wholesome stuff. So here we go. So if this is the main episode you're listening to or watching, we're going to cut out right now. And we're back to the main episode. Wow, what did I say? What did I get into? The only way to find out is to join the Patreon, Finding My Audience. The links are all in the link stuff, but let's talk about it. Dublin. Dublin had great energy. Came into it hot. I went to They Might Be Giants. I'm going to do a whole episode about They Might Be Giants when I get back to the States, because I saw 2 shows and I kind of just realized, there's a lot to talk about here. But I will say that I ran into a guy named Connor Habib, who, if anyone has ever watched male-oriented porn, might know who he is. And I don't want to reduce him to that. He's an author, too. He's a novelist. He's a great writer. He's a funny guy. But it's funny because I clocked this guy outside of and I knew that he moved to Dublin, or I knew that he moved. I didn't know he moved to Ireland, England, whatever, but I knew he moved out of the States. And I see this guy on the street, and I saw him in LA once. And we used to mutually follow each other. I guess he stopped following me. But I clocked him, and I was like, that looks like that guy. And then I go to the They Might Be Giants show, and I see him, and I was just like, and then we just ended up standing next to each other. I was there first. Him and his boyfriend came up to me. But I go, are you Connor Habib? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, hey, we used to follow each other on Twitter, blah, blah, blah. And he was just super nice, and they bought me some drinks, and I bought them some drinks. So that was like a really cool way to go in. And then I had a little bit of a night that I talked about in the Patreon thing. The thing that I will say about Dublin is most of the pubs I went into, and I went into probably too much, but a majority of the pubs I went into smelled like cat piss. Now, when I say they smell like cat piss, what I realized later when I went to the actual restroom, is that just might be what human piss smells like in Ireland because everyone's drinking so much. But I went to a great place called, and you know what the place I went to, it was called Fallon's. It was fine, but it smelled like cat piss. I went to a place called Devitt's Pub, which was fantastic. All the bartenders, and it was like not a super formal bar, but all the bartenders were dressed very nice and were very formal and everything. And I saw I was outside smoking at this place, and the bouncers were all fine. This is the thing I've noticed walking into a place. And I'm usually walking in, maybe I'm on my phone, maybe I'm a little cocked, maybe I'm a little drunk, maybe I'm smoking, maybe I'm kind of out of it. But they'll go, you all right? And I'll go, yeah. And then they'll go, okay, come in. And I'm like, oh, is that the test? Like, is that what it is? But this one guy walks up to the bouncer, and I'm watching. And this guy goes, he's like talking, he's like, is there a place around here called blah, blah, blah? And he goes, yeah, it's like over there. And then the guy just offers up for no reason. He goes, well, I'm a philosopher. And the guy goes, okay. And then he's like, well, can I just have a drink here? And he's like, no. And they get in this whole like philosophical argument. And then he sends the guy on his way. And I go, is it because he said he was a philosopher? And he goes, yeah, fuck that shit. Whatever. So that was pretty funny. But Devitt's was cool. The bartender that was super nice. He didn't know how to make a martini, which I thought was a little strange. But I guess pubs here, it's not. You go to a cocktail bar if you want a cocktail. If you go to a pub, you're getting wine. You're getting a beer, wine, or a mixed drink. There I met Stephen and Keegan, 2 guys from Northern Ireland. I don't think Belfast, but somewhere in Northern Ireland. They were Liverpool soccer football fans. They were in town for a Liverpool playoff, which they lost, apparently. These guys drank 7 Red Bull and vodkas each at the bar, which I told them, we really only drink those in WeHo. But they were really funny, and Steven kept making me take pictures of them on holiday. But they were cool. They were nice guys. But literally, I got like 5 pictures with me of these guys because they were just so drunk that they kind of forgot what was going on. Went to a club after that called Copperface Jack's. I was supposed to go with those boys, but I was trying to buy cigarettes, and I think that they thought maybe I was trying to ditch them, which I truly was not. I just went to I asked a bouncer, I go, hey, where's the closest place I can buy cigarettes? And they go, we got a machine in the back. And I was like, what? And he goes, it takes cards. And I was like, what? People smoke here. Smoking's bad. But it's awesome. And people smoke here. So I go to this place called Copperface Jack's, and it's like a club, and it's kind of disgusting. But it was fun, and I'm just kind of hanging out, and I just kind of wind up next to some people, and I'm kind of like, do you mind if I hang out and dance like with you guys? And they're like, yeah, it's cool. And so I had a really good time with them. I feel like I have the same energy as like a Indian guy that works at a bank in this part of the world, because I was dancing the same way as this guy, and we were getting along. But I was having so much fun, and all the music they were playing was like my college era music, so it was fun. I was having a little throwback regression moment. And then there's this place called Wow Burger here, and it's just like a burger joint. It's like everything here that's like fast food. Very rarely do you order with a person. Everything has like these touch screens, and you do that. And I guess maybe we'll be moving towards that in the States as well. But you order it, and it was good. And I went to Wow Burger 3 times when I was in Dublin. I was there for 3 nights. So what does that tell you? But also because they were open late, etc. But really good. I predict that Wow Burger within the next 2 to 3 years will have its first location in the United States in Boston, and I feel like it's going to do gangbusters, to the point so much that I would like to open a franchise. If any listeners out there have some money lying around, let's bring Wow Burger to the States. I feel like we can do a whole campaign where it's the real Irish fast food place as opposed to McDonald's, which is just, a name at this point, because the whole thing is Irish beef and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if we'd even need to replicate that. I'm sure we could figure something out. But it's like a smash burger. And they also have other stuff that, like, their chicken stuff was good too. I had some of that. Their fries were good, which is something that I feel like we need a good sort of cheap burger like In-N-Out, where the fries are good. And I love In-N-Out. Let's see, I did the Guinness tour, which is great. Actually very impressive. I was kind of prepared to just be like a touristy thing, but very impressive, very simple, and very like, what's the right word? Curated is not the right word, but it was a very cool experience. Some cool, like, they had like one room where it's like, there's 4 ingredients: hops, barley, wheat, and water. Or no, that's not right. Hops, barley, yeast, and water. And they have different, areas for each ingredient. And like for the barley, it was like the Irish barley. It's like there's literally like not a field, but like an entire thing of the barley you could touch. And then the water, they have this water display. Maybe if I have time and figure out, I think I took a video of it. I'll put it up on the video for YouTube. But it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It was like, I thought that it was like just water pouring out of a thing, and then the water would part, and then there was like a light up screen. But once I got closer to it, I realized, no, the water is falling in a way that is making words and making messages. And then it would also, like, the water was falling, and it looked like a pint of Guinness. There was a whole section, a whole floor dedicated to their advertising. That was the best. That was my favorite part. There were parts where you could like access these little, monitors, and you could watch all these different Guinness TV commercials from, very, very early on, 50s, I want to say, 60s to modern day. Very cool. And then there was like a part where you could get like a Guinness, and they put your selfie on the foam, which was cool. Maybe I'll put up a picture of that. And there at that little section, I met someone was like, oh, can I sit here? Every woman that I've actually talked to has been American, which is fine. I like American women. But this nice woman from Philadelphia, Chris, sat down. She asked if she could sit there, and we kind of were like, oh, you're American. And I was like, you wanted to get out of the country too, huh? And she was like, yeah. And she was from Philly, and she was like, Pennsylvania's dead to me. And I was like, oh, I hear that tone in your voice because I'm from Florida. And she was like, oh, you get it. She was a nice girl. It was nice to meet her. Went to Tesco for the first time. That was cool. Easy. It's so crazy here. There's TJ Maxx. There's everything that we have. Everything you would ever want. TJ Maxx. I had the best seafood chowder of my entire life. To the point where that dumbass song was playing in the pub. This is the best day of my life. And I was like, is this the best day of my life? I listened to Tuesday Morning by the Pogues. I read some more. Oh, I read Sally Rooney. I was reading Sally Rooney the whole time. Normal People. God, I forgot how raw that book is. It was making me cry. It was making me cry. It might have also been the drinks. Temple Bar. So Temple Bar is a neighborhood in Dublin by the river. But it's also a pub. There's Temple Bar Pub. And it was like, I don't know if it's all the time, but at least at this part of the year, there's Christmas stuff up everywhere. And it was just awesome. It was crowded. But also there were corners where I could go and read my book. But then it was like Ireland, Dublin at least so far has been the place where I was like, this is the most fun going out spot, I think, because every place just has live music, and it's like, it kind of fills the void of karaoke, or I feel like it does a similar thing because everyone's singing along, but it takes the pressure off individuals, like in a way where like karaoke is ubiquitous in Los Angeles because everyone wants to be a star. So it was very touristy, but it was cool. And then it's funny because they'll do like some traditional Irish songs, and then they'll do classics, which are like Mrs. Robinson and like What's Going On by the Four Non Blondes. So that's Dublin. I just want to see how long we've been going. This is great. Edinburgh. Edinburgh is beautiful. Beautiful. If you can't see it, I mean, from right here I can see like a spire, this monument thing. I think that's the portrait gallery over there. I mean, it's truly remarkable. And then there's like Victoria Street. I'm on Princess Street. There's Queen Street over there. Victoria Street up there. I mean, it's really like, to me, I'm like, it looks like I'm in a movie. But it's real. I went to the Scottish Museum. A lot of cool stuff there. They had Dolly. You guys know Dolly? The sheep that was cloned? Which, by the way, I still don't think Dolly gets enough credit, or the scientists that made Dolly. I remember learning about that on Channel 1. Do you guys remember Channel 1? They showed Channel 1 during lunch in junior high, I think essentially as a vehicle to sell advertising for fruit by the foot. That popsicle commercial, and like Oops All Berries, and like Surge, and like whatever was going on at that time. I'm 100 years old. But Dolly the sheep, they had her in a rotating, it's like, there she is, the Miss America. I don't think we give Dolly enough credit, or that breakthrough. That's crazy. They cloned a sheep. They did it. Anyway, Dolly was there. There's like an really old locomotive. The Scots were really big on steam stuff. Alexander Graham Bell was Scottish, but he did all that shit in Philly. There's a lot of cool old stuff. Obviously, it was a museum. But cool just tooling around. Pretty much every museum, it seems, is free here, which I think is really cool. Museums get a bad rap because they steal a lot of stuff. Sometimes in life, you got to take what you want. But it was a good time, good to tool around. I went to this bar called Hoot the Redeemer. Their whole thing is like you walk down the steps, and like the way to get in is through the thing from Big that made the guy big. like a fortune teller arcade game. You like press the thing and go in. And their whole thing is like they have boozy milkshakes. Boozy milkshakes are a big thing over here. But some pretty good. I had just a couple great cocktails. I met a girl that goes to Oxford, but was from America, from Ohio. So we commiserate about the election as well. God, it actually made me feel really like I kind of had to stop myself from being negative, because I was just like, oh my God, you have so much of this still to go through because you're so young. But that's very patronizing. And also, it's like, this is America. You get through it. Let's see. I went to a vintage store called Armstrong's, which a lot of people hyped up to me. They didn't have anything in my size, no big deal. So I went to this place called Elio's. Excuse me, it's a place that was open until 3 a.m. So I went there. And I met this guy who I kind of clocked him, and I saw him clocking me. Skinny guy, kind of balding, but he had style. He was dressed well. And I think I was sitting at a table, and then I go out to have a smoke, and then I come back and someone took my seat. So I just kind of go up to the empty spot in the bar, and we just start chatting. And he's a British guy who lives in Edinburgh, but he was so funny. He was giving me little comments about my dress, and I was like, well, maybe I'll buy some tweed while I'm in Edinburgh. And he was like, well, here's where you want to go. And he drew me a map, like from where we were at the bar to where the place was. And I was like, well, I don't really have $700 to buy a nice suit, but I do need some Chelsea boots. And he was like, oh, you want to go here? And he wrote it down. And the whole thing, he was just like, well, I used to be a banker. We bonded immediately because he used to live in Florida, of all places. And he was a kid. He was just telling me all these stories. But he's like, used to be rich, banker, Lamborghini, the whole deal. And he just kept, and in Dublin, every bald man came up to me and was like, so you got hair, who cares? And he kind of did the same thing. But this guy, he was like, he kept talking about how he knew. He was like, the Treasury Secretary under Trump, Steve Mnuchin. I'm like, yeah. He goes, his wife, and maybe they're not married anymore, or whatever, or maybe it was a girlfriend at the time, whatever. He was like, best friend. And I was like, oh, you're in love with this girl. And then he was like, no, I'm not in love with her. I was left to the altar by someone else. And I was like, man, this guy is like, I don't know. He felt like my brother or something. We were bonding. We had a good time. I used to be rich. That's what he kept saying. And then I went to, then I called it a night. And then yesterday, kind of a chill day, I literally just walked around, which is great because it's like there's the Edinburgh Castle. There's all these things. You can just walk up to them and kind of be like, get it, I don't want to brag, but growing up by the Castillo de San Marcos, which was a fort, but in St. Augustine, which is a very European city. It's it's the oldest, call it settled, whatever you want to call it, colonial, and it wasn't British, it was Spanish, but it's the oldest European settled city in America. And so I'm like, I've seen a castle. I've been behind bars. I've sat on a cannon. So I was kind of like, whatever to that. But did snap some pics. But I went to a great spot today. I went to two great spots. I went to Greenwoods, which I guess is an Amsterdam brunch spot that they set up a second location in Edinburgh. Fantastic. Got a salmon Benedict basically type thing. Great Bloody Mary. Better than the Bloody Mary I had in Hammersmith, London, which had pomegranate seeds in it. What? And then for dinner, I went to Le Petit Beef Bar, which is what I tell women I have to provide when I'm pressed on time. But had a great New York strip steak and another gin martini and a glass of wine. And I don't really get dessert, but I've been hungry on this trip, I think because I'm walking everywhere. And I got a chocolate souffle. Oh my God. Dessert's pretty good. But yeah, that's been Edinburgh. I think because I recorded this and it's before midnight, I might go out. But I'm heading to Glasgow tomorrow. I'm seeing an old family friend. And, I was going to say this before I go. The UK specifically, money's weird here. Euros are a little bit more legit. The British money, do I have my wallet on me? No. I wish I could show you. The notes, the British like bills, not real money. It feels like God, it feels like a magazine insert or something, and then part of it also is see-through. But the real issue for me are these coins. Here's how many coins they have. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Really? It's only 7? No, there's another one. I didn't grab it. There are 8 coins because there's a 1 pence coin, but I got the 2 pence. There's a 2 pence penny, 2 pennies. There's a 20 pence, and then also notice this. It's not completely circle. It's like, give it time to focus. I don't know if it'll actually show, but it's like, how many sides does it have? It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has 7 sides, I believe. Weird. There's a 1 pound coin. There's a 5 pence coin. There's a 10 pence coin, a dime. There's a 2 pound coin. Now this is the only 2 pound coin I have, so maybe this is a rare one. But, and then they have a 50 pence coin, a 50-cent coin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then there's a 1 pence one as well, so 8. We have what? Dime, nickel, quarter, penny, maybe a 50-cent piece, 5. It's too many coins, but maybe that's why the British pound is so much stronger than the American dollar. Or it could be because the country's just better in general. Anyway, that's the update. Thank you guys for listening. Join the Patreon for the extra stuff, the unsavory stuff. Ran through, listen to it, Spotify, whatever. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in the funny papers.